Hi, we are beginning Unit 5, and this is going to be Lesson 1. I can identify if a relation is a function. Now, there's going to be 4 different types of options we're going to look at. I want you to be sure to pause this, go watch this video that's in the slides below, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about it. So here are some vocabulary terms that you're going to need as we go forward. Y'all have already seen a table. You've already seen this table has been graphed below. So these inputs, or your chicken, and these outputs, your chicken nuggets, have been graphed below. So -4 is 1, 2, -4 and -4. It's right there. Okay. Now, when you put all these ordered pairs together, they are called a relation. And this is the equation. So this is the function machine that we use to make this graph and to come up with those input and outputs. And the one thing that you've never seen before is mapping. And mapping is just a different way to write your x and y coordinates. So over on the left, you have your x, and over on your right, you have your y. Those look very similar. Let me redo that. You have your y coordinates. And what it is you put them in order, and wherever the line draws, so you see you have -4 pointed down to -4, those are those points right there. And where you have -2 pointing to 3, those are those points right there, and so on and so forth. So the ones we're going to focus on are this relation, the table, the graph, and the mapping. So let's get into it. We're going to start by identifying functions from a point. So function is a relationship where each input, or each x, has only one matching y, and that's really important. So every time you put in an x, you want to get out one singular y, okay? So we're going to start and we're going to look at this top set of relations. I want to look at the x values. And I want to look and identify each of the x values. And we remember when we're looking at a point, x comes before y. So I'm going to draw a green line under all my x's. I have my 1, my 3, my 1, and my 3. And step 2, so I've found my x values. If an x value is repeated, well, let's see, are any of my x values repeated? Well, this one is repeated and this one is repeated. Okay, so if they're repeated, I check to see what their output, and their output needs to be the same if I want to call it a function. So this input is 1 and this output is 2. Okay, so this input is 1, but the output is 4. Because my x's are 1, 2, and 1, 4, my inputs are the same or my outputs are different. This is not a function. It's not a function. So I'm going to do the same thing for the set below. If I identify my x's, I'm going to see, do any repeat? Well, I see that the zeros repeat. So I'm going to look at those zeros. 0, 2, 0, 2. So what I've got right there, 0, 2, and 0, 2. My input and outputs are the same, so this one is a function. Okay. Now, I'm going to look at the tables next. And each x is represented by its input is to its output. So I have 2 and 5, 3 and 8, 3 and 9, 4 and 10. So what do I want to check first? I want to check, are any of my x's repeated? Yes, this x is repeated and this x is repeated. Oh, it's hard to see. So these two x's are repeated. So I look at my output. My first 3 gives me an output of 8, and my second 3 gives me an output of 9. And because I repeated my x's and the y's are not the same, then this table is not a function. Are we getting the idea? Okay, so I'm going to create some points for this number right here. So I'm looking at a set of points, 4 and 2, and then 5 and 1, and 6 and 8, and 7 and 3. So here are my relations for that mapping. Now I need to draw an arrow that connects my 4 to my 2. So I start at my 4, I'm going to go down to my 2. And then I go to my 5 and my 1 and my 6 to my 8 and my 7 to my 3. Now, if you notice, I have a different arrow for every single x because this is my x and these are my y's. So because I have a different arrow for every single x, this is a function. Now, on this last one, I'm just going to draw the arrows. Again, do I have 2 arrows coming from any x? No, I don't. Does it matter that they're pointing to more than one y? No, it doesn't. We're going to see what those graphs look like, but that right there is a function. So first, we're checking to see if any x's are repeated in any of these options. Moving on, let's talk about graphing. So this one, we're going to do something that's called the vertical line test. Now, vertical means up and down. And anywhere I can take a pencil or I can take my finger or I can draw a line. And my goal is when I draw this vertical line, say here, it's only going to touch at one point. So it's only touching this line, this graph, in one spot. So this one is a function. Let's look at this one down here. This one down here, when I draw my vertical line or I drag my pencil across the line, it touches it in 2 spots. It crosses it there and it crosses it there. And because it crosses it there, it means there's 2 x's. And if there are 2 x's as an input and different y outputs, guess what? It's not a function. So let's look at this top one. I'm going to draw a line here. It only touches it once. What if I drop another line there? Still only once. I'll draw another line there. Still only once. So because all of these lines only cross this in one spot, this one is a function. And so our last but not least, if I draw this line, it touches in how many places? We've got a spot here, and a spot there, and a spot there. It touches in 3 places. So it is not a function. So we are going to try a couple of questions. I want you to look at these questions. These are on your slides. The first one says, which one of these representations does not show a function of x? And then our last one, I have these points. A relation contains these points. Which statement accurately describes this relation? So you're going to go to the guided practice and you're going to check your answers. And then the guided practice, I have a quizzes that will tell you right or wrong immediately if you're right or wrong. And this is something that's just going to take some practice. So stick with me. If you have any questions, please send me an email. Okay.